Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So we are from Group Pablo. Going to discuss on uh, Felda Berhad accounting fraud. So this is our group members. We have Nil Yakin, we have Nurin Naziha, we have me, Nur Kamal Farhan, we have Farisha, we have Hazika, we have Aiman, and lastly we have Alia Kistina.
Let's begin with a brief overview of Felda corporate history. Felda, or Federal Land Development Authority, was established in 1956 by Malaysian government. Its original mission was to develop land for agriculture and to resettle the rural poor, mainly focusing on palm oil and rubber cultivations. Over the years, Felda evolved from purely government agency into a more commercialized corporate entity. This includes the formation of multiple subsidiaries such as Felda Investment Corporations (FIC) and Felda Global Venture Holding Berhad (FGV), which was later publicly listed on Bursa Malaysia in 2012. Through its subsidiaries, Felda expanded aggressively, not just within Malaysia, but also into Asia, Europe, and North America. It became one of the largest conglomerates in Malaysia and key player in the global palm oil industry.
Okay, Felda has been involved in high-profile accounting scandals that involve Tan Sri Isis Hamad, which is the former of Felda chairman. So this case is not about one man, but it reflects the deeper issue on the abusive of power, the lack of financial oversight, and poor governance to the public institutions. So now let's see the timeline of the case that happened in that year. The story started all the way back to 2011, where Felda first appointed Tan Sri as the Felda chairman and also the FIC director that stands as Financial Investment Corporation. So the case started on 29 April 2014, where Tan Sri allegedly approved the purchase of Merdeka Palace Hotel and Suite in Kuching that nearly worth 160 million ringgit without full board approval. So later, a evaluation showed that the hotel was actually worth only 80 million ringgit that raised concern of overpayment and possible misconduct. So between July and 2014 and December 2015, Tan Sri was accused of receiving bribe of totaling 3.09 million ringgit. And on the date of 15 August 2017, MACC arrested Tan Sri Muhammad Isa Abdul Somad after the public concern about several hotel purchases that has been made by FIC. So on 14 December 2018, Muhammad Isa is charged with one count of criminal breach of trust (CBT) and 9 count of receiving bribes. So during the trial in October 2019, it was revealed that the hotel has been purchased at nearly double its market value. And 16 June 2020, the High Court acquits Tan Sri Isa of CBT charge, but he has to proceed with his defense for the corruption charges. So on the 3rd February 2021, the High Court finds Tan Sri is guilty and on all 9 charges. So he was sentenced to 6 years in prison and has been fined for amounting of 15.45 million ringgit. But the very next day, on February 4, he filed an appeal and was granted bail. Finally, on March 6, 2024, the Court of Appeal acquitting him, citing inconsistent witness statement and lack of proof that Isa gave instruction to accept the bribes. However, just one day later, on March 7, 2024, the Attorney General Chamber filed an appeal to the Federal Court. As of June 2025, until now, the final verdict is still pending. So in conclusion, this case highlights the importance of financial transparency, the ethical of leadership, and the accountability in managing public funds, especially within major government institutions like Felda.
There were four main issues identified in this case. First, the purchase was highly overpriced. The hotel, which had a market value of around 77 into 80 millions, was bought at RM 160 millions, almost double the actual value. Second, the proper board approval was bypassed. Felda Investment Corporation, or FIC, had an investment limit of 100 millions. Yet, the decision to purchase the hotel at RM 160 million was made without going through the required governance process. Third, there were allegations of bribery. The former Felda chairman, Tan Sri Issa Samad, was accused of receiving RM 3.09 million in kickback through a middleman involved in the deal. And finally, this deal resulted in a significant loss to Felda, with estimated suggestion and unrealized loss of up to RM 80 million, directly impacting public funds and the sectors Felda was meant to support.
Next, for the legal implication, there are 6 points. The first one is that the conviction was overturned due to the lack of a clear evidence-based case. The Court of Appeal ruled prosecution failed to prove that Issa received 3 million. Contradictory testimonies will lead to reasonable doubt and also will lead to benefit to the accused. The second point is that the prosecution stories changed in the middle of the trial, which was against procedural fairness. Initially, said money was a reward, later changed to inducement. This violated Issa's right to know the exact charge from the start. The third point is that there is inconsistencies in statements from witnesses raised doubt. There are no clear proof that Issa got the money himself, and witnesses gave conflicting, unsupported accounts. Next, prosecutors should be reminded that charges must be clear and consistent. The accused must get proper notice of charges, and the prosecution can change its version during trial. The fifth point is that wider consequences for prosecutors and the legal system. Oral claims aren't enough. They must have solid financial proof. Weak, inconsistent cases will damage the prosecution. The last point is that the Attorney General has the right to appeal. The case still isn't over. The acquittal can still be challenged. The final decision lies with the federal court.
Assalamualaikum. Today I'm going to highlight an analysis of factor for Felda accounting fraud that particularly involving Tan Sri Muhammad Issa Abdul Samad and Felda Investment Arm, FICSB. First, centralization of power without independent oversight. The first issue is the dangerous centralization of power. Tan Sri Issa had two major positions simultaneously. He was both the chairman, Felda, the parent body of FICSB, and he is also board of FICSB, the investment subsidiaries. This creates a serious conflict of interest. There was no separation of roles. The same person was proposing, approving, and overseeing the investment. Mostly large investments were made without board approval, and some were done directly by him without any formal documentation or official meeting. This lack of check and balances is a clear violation of good corporate governance practices. The second issue is board of director not involved. The second issue is the exclusion of the board of directors from important decisions. According to a statement by Datuk Hanapi Suhada, the former Director General of Felda, the board was only informed after decisions were already made. For example, he was told Tan Sri Chairman has agreed to buy the hotel, but no meeting minutes, no supporting document, and no proper approval process assisted. In short, major financial decisions were made unilaterally without the knowledge or consent of the Felda or FICSB board. The third and final point is the lack of proper due diligence and asset valuation. There were no independent evaluation reports presented for the purchases. Decisions were made hastily without thorough analysis. This led to a high risk of overpricing, which means Felda could have paid more than the actual value of the asset, resulting in the financial losses and public distrust. In conclusion, these 3 points, concentration of power, lack of board involvement, and absence of due diligence, reflect several governance breakdowns. They not only affected Felda's financial stability but also undermine public confidence in how our national institutions are being managed. Thank you.
Next, I will continue with second factor that contribute to the fraud case involving Felda and its former chairman, Tan Sri Muhammad Isa Abdul Samad. The abuse of authority and exceedance of mandates, these two factors were central to the prosecution case and revealed major shortcomings in corporate governance and inter-control with a government-linked investment body. Firstly, let's examine the issue of exceeding investment mandates. A mandate in this context refers to the official limits of authority granted by Felda Board of Directors to its investment arm, Felda Investment Corporation Sdn Berhad or FIC. According to witness testimony presented in court from Siti Salwani Muhammad Saleh, a former senior officer of FICSP, the Felda Board had clearly set a financial ceiling RM100 million for any investment decision made independently by FIC. Any investment proposal exceeding this amount require direct referral to an approval by main Felda Board of Directors. However, the purchase of the Melaka Palace Hotel and Suites in Kuching, which amounted to RM160 million, blatantly exceed the limit by RM60 million. More importantly, there was no record that this transaction had been brought to the Felda Board for approval. This represents a clear breach of the investment mandate, bypassing the critical governance mechanism intended to ensure accountability and proper evaluation of large-scale investment. Now, moving on to the second issue, abuse of authority. The prosecution contend that the decision to proceed with the R116 million hotel acquisition was not based on collective deliberation or financial due diligence by the FIC board. Instead, it was the result of directive allegedly issued by Tan Sri Muhammad Isa Samad himself in his capacity as the chairman of Felda. By using his influential position to pressure or instruct the FIC board to approve the transaction, Isa Samad effectively overrode the standard governance procedure. This type of directive lead-making decision making is deeply problematic and undermines the independence and oversight role of the board. Boards are meant to act as a safeguard against impulsive or high-risk decision. However, when one individual's authority dominates the process, the system becomes vulnerable to misuse and corporate accountability is compromised. This abuse of authority did not occur in isolation. It directly contributes to the breach of mandate I mentioned earlier. Essentially, the power held by Tan Sri Isa Samad was allegedly used not to serve the interests of Felda or its stakeholders, but to advance a transaction that may have involved personal gain. Although the Court of Appeal later acquitted him due to technical issues related to the admissibility of evidence. The fact presented during the trial painted a clear picture of serious governance failures. The absence of proper approval, the lack of due diligence, and the bypassing established control all suggest a systemic breakdown in how investment decisions were supposed to be made. In conclusion, the case served as a strong reminder of the importance of robust internal control, independent board oversight, and strict adherence to governance mandates, especially within public institutions that manage significant financial resources. The issue of the issues of abuse of authority and exceeding mandates are not merely legal or procedural concerns. They have real consequence on public trust, financial integrity, and institutional accountability. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Now, I will explain about the role of corporate scandal in shaping accounting standards and profession. First, Felda had improved their corporate governance. As we all know, the case revealed that too much power was concentrated in the chairman's hand, and there were weak internal controls, limited oversight from the board, and poor risk management when large investments were made. After the scandal, Felda had made several major governance reforms, which is first, Felda strengthened their board independence. Felda restructured its board to include more independent directors selected based on professional expertise rather than political connections. This helps to ensure that decisions are properly reviewed. Next, they empowered their audit committees. The audit committee was given greater authority to evaluate financial transactions, especially large investments and acquisitions, before they are approved. Lastly, after the scandal, they had a greater transparency and disclosure. Felda improved the way transactions are documented and disclosed, allowing greater examination by regulators, auditors, and stakeholders. Next, let's go to the second role of corporate scandal in shaping accounting standards and the profession. After the scandal, Felda has introduced a formal code of ethics and conduct. This document clearly outlines the expected ethical behavior for all employees and management. It sets standards for integrity, transparency, accountability, conflict of interest, and proper handling of company resources. Next, the case also highlighted how difficult it can be for employees to speak up against powerful leaders engaging in unethical conduct. As a result, whistleblower protections were strengthened to encourage staff to report wrongdoing without fear of retaliation. Under Felda's updated policies and national laws, employees who report bribery, fraud, or unethical behavior are legally protected, ensuring that such misconduct can be exposed and addressed early.
Okay, next is recommendation to prevent similar scandals in the future. For the first recommendation is implement strong internal controls and board oversight. There must be strict enforcement of internal controls where no single individual should hold excessive power. The roles of proposing, approving, and monitoring investments must be separated. Board approval should be mandatory for high-value transactions, and investment decisions must be properly documented with clear audit trails. For the second recommendation is mandate independent asset valuation and due diligence. Before any major purchase, there should be independent valuation reports and thorough due diligence. This can help prevent overpricing and ensure that purchases are aligned with the market value. Every acquisition must follow a formal process supported by proper documentation and review by relevant committees. For the last recommendation is enhanced legal and ethical compliance training. All top management and board members should undergo regular training on legal responsibilities, ethical standards, and anti-corruption law such as MACC Act Section 17A. Encouraging whistleblower protections and fostering a culture of transparency can also help detect and prevent fraudulent activities earlier. Okay, lastly is conclusion. Let's conclude our discussion on the Felda Berhad accounting scandal. The scandal highlighted critical vulnerabilities in corporate governance, internal controls, and ethical practices. These weaknesses made it easier for fraud and misconduct to occur within the organization. Some of the major issues included abuse of authority, lack of due diligence in decision-making, and violations of investment mandates. These problems led to significant financial losses and damaged the company's reputation. Moving forward, it is clear that improved governance, Improving governance, empowering whistleblowers, and creating a strong ethical corporate culture are essential steps to prevent such incidents in the future. By addressing these areas, organizations can build a foundation of accountability and trust, ensuring better protection against fraud and misconduct.